Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Looking for Love in All the Wrong Dust Jackets, a show where three cool ladies talk to you about everything in romance, whether that's books, movies, TV shows, whatever you like. My name's Liz.
I'm Danny.
Wiggles.
And welcome to the show. Today, we are talking about the book Not All Himbos Wear Capes by Rochelle, and I'm excited to talk about it. But before we get into anything else, I do have to warn you, we're not the ladiest like ladies of all the ladies that ever ladied. We're crass, we swear, we talk about the sexy times, especially in this book, so you've been warned.
We do enunciate our swears like fucking ladies.
Exactly.
Yes.
Great, Wix.
Great contribution there, Wiggs.
You're welcome.
But before we get into that, we got to talk about what else is going on in your lives. What you been reading? What you been watching? What you have been playing on the video games? Wiggles, as I stare at you and assume you're playing Baldur's Gate.
I have been, let's be so honest. But also I finished reading Good People by Sally Rooney.
Did you now?
I did actually do that. I did that thing where I started it and then I abandoned it and then I came back to it and was like, I don't really know what's going on. And then I got caught up and finished that book. Yeah, I mean, it's like a good 3.5 kind of book. It's not, I think it gets labeled as a romance, but at best it's like a romance tragedy. But it's just, this couple that is in this cyclical cycle of we love each other, but. So yeah, I mean, if you are looking for introspection on the human condition, go ahead and read it. If you are looking for a good time, this is not the one.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
Danny, what are you doing?
Okay, well, Liz is going to yell at me. So I got a new bed this weekend, and I spent the entirety of the weekend in it because it has an adjustable frame, and I was happy as a clam. So I'm not going to lie, I Grey's Anatomied a little bit. But then I decided to spoopy season it up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched American Horror Story Coven, and then I watched The Haunting of Hill House.
Very good.
The remake of The Haunting of Hill House or the original Haunting of Hill House?
The remake of The Haunting of Hill House.
Okay, here's the thing. I don't think enough people realize that the TV show or any of the movies have taken a book that's dry as fucking toast.
It really is. I have the audiobook for it, and it's like,
it's based on a book?
Yes, it's called The Turn of the Screw.
Oh, I've heard of that, yeah.
And it is, no, Hill House isn't Turn of the Screw, is it?
No, Hill House is Hill House.
Oh, no. I'm thinking Bly Manor.
Yeah.
Bly Manor. But they're both dry. I've also read Hill House, and that one is also very dry.
Yeah, I was going to say, wait, no, The Haunting of Hill House is The Haunting of Hill House.
No, I was confusing them because they're like all the same actors or whatever. But yeah, no. Just like, I get that it's classic horror. Mm-hmm. However, dry as toast.
Oh, yeah. The books are very dry, but the shows are pretty good. And yeah. I really do enjoy The Haunting of Hill House.
I didn't know it was also a TV show.
You've never seen The Haunting of Hill House?
No, I must be thinking of something else because wasn't there like an old movie called The Haunting of Hill House?
Yes. It's been remade many times. There was also one in the 90s.
I watched the one in the 90s.
Yeah. With the ghosts and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's also a ton of redoings of Bly Manor, but it's not always called that because, like I said, the original book is The Turn of the Screw. And have you ever read Dracula?
Bram Stoker's Dracula?
Yeah.
No, yes. I haven't read it.
So both The Turn of the Screw and Dracula come from like your narration is correspondence. And so there's also this element of like, you cannot trust a single fucking thing the narrator is telling you. So there's also like that. So I'm just saying Ryan Murphy is fucking killing it with these adaptations because he's taking very not entertaining like source material and turning it into something awesome. You should watch the show. It's really good.
It is a Netflix show.
I know.
I don't Netflix.
I agree. But also, they have my favorite show on there.
What's your favorite show?
It's my recommendation, so I'll tell you later.
Oh, okay.
Oh, fair enough.
I can tell you what I've been doing. I read Found by the Lake Monster by Lillian Lark and Ensnared by the Werewolf by Lillian Lark. They're both novellas, so they're like 100 pages each.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah,
And we do love some Lillian Lark.
we do.
Does it get straight down to business, or does it still play coy a little bit for the beginning?
The Lake Monster gets very quickly into the naughty times. Ensnared by the Werewolf is a little tamer, but it has more plot, so it's kind of like, which one are you here for?
Fair enough.
I was here for the monster fucking, so I liked the lake monster one better.
Well, it depends on your mood too, right? Like
Yeah.
I've read like sugary sweet romances where I'm like, this is not what I'm in the mood for. We gotta get down to the business, and I'm flipping through the pages. But I've also had times where I'm reading the like heavier duty stuff, and I'm like, whoa.
Break.
Yeah, sometimes it depends on my mood. I'm like, can we just get to the fucking already? And then there's definitely times where I'm like, all right, well, we've done this like 8 times, so
Yeah, if you're
Yeah.
gonna have a lot of spice, you need to change up the spice.
yes.
Yeah, it cannot be the same vanilla like missionary position over and over and over again.
Nah.
Like regardless of whether or not it's monster romance, like just any romance, I'm gonna get bored.
Yeah,
As would any partner that had to deal with that.
Right.
especially in monster romance, because there's more things usually to explore.
I was gonna say there's more room for activities.
Yes, exactly.
They'll make more room for activities, if you will.
Yeah. There
You
needs
got to
be
know the
tail
right
action.
spell for that.
Or have a magic dick that has a flower at the end.
Oh
Well, we know what book Wiggs is gonna write now.
Listen, if you want me to write the raunchiest shit, I'm inspired. I'm inspired. This book gave me all the inspiration.
It was not what I had thought it was.
Well, let's go ahead and get into the book then. Does somebody want to tell us what the hell this thing is about?
Sure, I can talk about what it's about.
Here, Janny, you give the real version, and then I'll give the 10-second version.
All right, so in a world where there are villains and superheroes everybody is like villains and superheroes, they're all called supers. They have magic powers essentially and everything. They have sworn enemies. It's all very High School Musical in that way. Shut up. It's my story and I'm sticking to it.
Okay.
Go for it. I'm not stopping you.
There is a villain that his best friend puts him on a dating app and he meets Butch, who is he thinks he's a normie, and they start dating and get a lot of fucking down, and as it turns out, he's the superhero that he's mildly obsessed with, and lots of other plot points in between, but that is essentially the story.
There's not a lot of other plot points in between.
Yeah,
There's,
that's the thing.
Well, there's a lot of intricacies as far as their families are concerned.
It's true.
Yes, and there's the
There's-
whole fated and mates thing. Which
Yeah.
The soup's version of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so here is the 10-second version. Take Megamind, make it a porno, and get rid of the growl. You have a book.
And I still really liked it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Before we talk more about the book, I looked up C. Rochelle a little bit. I watched some of her TikToks. She has a lot of interesting ones. I don't know if you want to watch somebody who's TikToks, knock yourself out. That was exciting. But it looks like, she has written a number of reverse harem romances. She has one that is, I think it's called Herculea or something like that. So it's very mythological based. There's a picture of a gal with Medusa hair on it. And then she has another series that actually kind of looks interesting that I think is based around the Baba Yaga, or at least a younger version of her.
I was gonna say that sounds terrifying.
That's not sexy.
You could take anything and make it sexy.
I mean, I suppose.
I mean,
but that
I
original
kinda
myth
liked the
of
spiders,
snatching
though.
up young ladies and saying, "You're bad, I'm gonna eat you," not sexy.
Maybe not what she intended to eat.
maybe that's not what happens in this telling.
Maybe she's eating something other than human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some tacos? Eating some tacos.
Yeah. Gross. Because like here's the other thing, she's always like depicted as this like awful hag creature. Like I don't want to imagine that going down to Pound Town.
That's not who this person is, or this book is about. It's like, I don't know. I don't know if it's a younger version of Baba Yaga, or if it's like the girls that she gets.
I don't know.
And
Every
I don't
Baba
know.
Yaga story that I've ever seen, she's like, I'm going to pretend to be nice to you, but I'm really going to fuck your shit up. And I might put you in my oven. Like, it might be Hansel and Gretel inspired situation.
She's also the one that has the house on chicken legs that walks around.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. It creeps me out.
I think
She's
it sounds
also, I
fascinating.
think, the source of some of the like mirror myths, like the Bloody Mary, things like
Really?
this. Yeah, like she can come through mirrors, if I remember
That
right.
shit fucked me up as a kid. Like, to this day, if I have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, I'm just like, don't look at the mirror. Or I'm like, I have to watch the mirror the entire time.
Yeah, I purposely kind of don't look at the mirror because if something were to walk behind me, I would lose my goddamn mind.
Here's the thing. I'm usually pretty good, but if I ever get myself into a situation where I'm convinced there's no one else here and there's something else that moves, I'm like, ah! Fight or flight has kicked in. And so I've frequently almost smashed a mirror. Just like,
Yeah.
I mean, Liz scared the shit out of you when she got here. So.
yeah, I did almost throw a plate at her face. It's a dangerous game.
I would have deflected. It would have been fine.
I mean, just saying, I have the, like, we all have the intrusive thoughts where, like, if your hand is hanging over the edge of the bed or whatever, that something's going to grab you. I did have one particular night where I was, like, holding on to the, like, corner of my mattress while I was sleeping. I don't know why. This was apparently just what felt comfortable. I wasn't actually asleep. I was just, like, on the edge of it. And my cat reached up and hit my hand, and I nearly shat myself in bed.
I swear to God, sometimes cats must like know that they're about to fuck with us before they fuck with us, because that seems like premeditated shit.
Right? And then I told my mother that, and I was like, we all have the intrusive thought that something's going to grab you. And she goes, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like,
What?
how dare you make me feel bad about myself that I'm like weird? And I'm like, no, that is a thing.
It's a pretty common thing. Let's talk about some superheroes and villains
And some fucking,
and a lot of fucking.
A lot of fucking.
just, you know,
my God.
It was some pretty good fucking.
75% of this 400-page book is smut. And I think that's worth acknowledging. Congratulations. They said it couldn't be done, but you achieved it.
I've got other books that are like this. That
Oh,
are
yeah.
as long as well, if not longer. I don't know what to say. I will say I listened to the audiobook, and me personally, I don't know how I would have reacted to just reading the book, because the narrators who did the performance for the audiobook obviously understood the assignment of like, you need to cheese this up a little bit,
They very much
Right.
did.
because it just like set the tone for me of like, oh, this is gonna be like, the premise is ridiculous, the world is ridiculous. I think the author on or whoever on Goodreads says it's like The Boys TV show, comic book, The Boys meets Sin City.
Meets like a raunchy like Judd Apatow comedy.
Yeah.
Like also like, let's not pretend that element isn't there. There were a few times where I was like, okay. like you want me to not laugh at this? You did not write it correctly if that's the case. But yeah, no, it's not what I was expecting, I'll tell you
It
that.
is not what I was expecting. I picked this solely. I read the back of the book, and I was like, oh, that could be good. But like, I was thinking it was kind of going to be kind of cutesy because of the name. Not all himbos wear capes. I'm like, oh, this will be kind of cutesy and fun, maybe to do for the podcast. Unintentionally picking a very Danny-esque book.
Oh yes.
Oh my God, there's so much fucking.
So
There's
much.
so much fucking.
And when they're not fucking, they're talking about fucking.
yeah.
Like, that's the other thing is, like, I was like, so quickly they went from like, oh, look at these people on their version of Tinder, right? And then it was immediately, I'm gonna fuck your shit up, bro. And I was like, what?
I was very much like, oh, he's into BDSM.
Yes.
Well, the whole premise of their relationship between Xander, also known as Dr. Antihero,
I would like to point out they do not get to pick their own names.
he didn't pick his own name, no.
And neither did Butch.
No.
No, yeah, that's right.
He
they
wouldn't have
didn't.
picked probably Captain Masculine.
Yeah. And then Butch, who is our hero, as Captain Masculine.
Butch.
And in Butch,
Sorry. I shouldn't have interrupted you. I'm sorry, but I gotta explain the Butch. In the audio book, for whatever reason, he doesn't talk like this through the entire rest of the book. He goes, at any time it's Butch's point of view, you just hear Butch.
Thankfully, they only switch point of views at the beginning of each chapter.
Oh, anyway, I'm so sorry, Liz.
so we have our two gentlemen, and I don't know what y'all envisioned, but my brain just could not stop seeing Chris Hemsworth's Thor and then Tom Hiddleston's Loki.
A little bit, yes.
The
Yeah, a little
entire
bit.
time.
Yes.
And then I saw a drawing that is on the author's website, and that's pretty much what it looks like.
Another like character inspiration that I had, like to that point. Have you ever watched The Discovery of Witches?
No.
No.
Well, then that's not going to be a good reference point. For the people at home who have, Matthew de Clermont is this like vampire that also like very much meets the Xander body type that they're describing.
Sure.
And is very imposing and domineering. And I don't think he's in the books. He does not get portrayed as a dom. That does not mean he isn't, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, I kept like flitting between him and Tom Hiddleston for sure. I was like, who are you?
Very different from the Xander in this book, who is a dom.
Oh,
yeah.
very much so.
Immediately.
I was like, oh, hi. The only thing is I'm not overly fond, and people are going to crucify me for this. I'm not overly fond of the whole daddy thing.
I'm not a fan of the dom daddy language that gets used in general. Like, this is the time to tune out if you don't like our potty mouths. I fucking hate the term cum slut. It makes me gag. I'm like, ooh, no.
Well, then this didn't work for you.
It didn't hit the right notes a few times there. Yeah, it was like that sour key you have on the piano where you're playing along and it all sounds good and all of a sudden, and you're like, that isn't it?
See, and I don't mind that so much. And it's not that I hate him calling him daddy. It's just never been kind of my thing.
No, I don't like it either. I don't mind reading it or hearing it in the audiobook in this case, but definitely there's that separation between fantasy and reality, right?
Yeah.
And
I much just prefer
sometimes-
sir.
sometimes your brain just switches for a second, just like that millisecond, and you imagine like actually experiencing something that you're reading,
And
you
that's
go,
when the
"No."
Yeah.
comes into play, right? Like, so that's the thing. It's like I can read it for other people, but the moment where I imagine someone saying that to me, I'm like, immediate punch to the dick, like immediate, like no,
Which
no
is
sir.
very different than our Butch, who was
Yeah.
immediately into
He
it.
was so into it so quickly. I was like, my guy, stand up for yourself a little.
Which is so interesting though, because like I think that character of somebody who always has to be on and always has to be in charge and always has to like make the correct decisions, then having like the kink of like having somebody else make all the bad decisions for them is pretty common.
Well,
Yes.
and I think it's fairly common in reality. People who are so in charge of their own lives, sometimes they just don't want to be.
Yeah.
Well, Butch isn't necessarily in charge of his own life,
No.
but he has to follow a very strict plan or a strict like path. He can't deviate away from Captain Masculine and what Biggs Enterprise is, the like enterprise that owns and runs the city and owns the superheroes, kind of.
Well, in that
decides
way,
for
he's
him.
a lot more like Captain America.
Yeah.
Or
Yes.
movie version of Captain America, I should
Yes.
say. Where it's like, you know, he is the golden boy and has to continue to be the golden boy. So there was also a few moments where I was like, is this really just Loki luring Captain America to the dark side?
That was the other person in my brain was Chris Evans' Cap. So it was the two Chris's combined made
Yeah.
Captain Masculine, and then there's just Tom Hiddleston looking all daddy like. I'm like, all right.
Well, okay, I have to say this since we're talking about the Marvel as a reference point. They make a reference to Thanos. And I was like, okay, wait, but like I need an explanation here. Like, are you saying that in a world where there are superheroes, they have superhero movies about non-existent superheroes? Or are you saying that Thanos is real in this universe? I'm confused.
No, Marvel exists. The MCU exists in this universe because they also make a reference, and it may have been in one of the bonus epilogues where I think it's Wolfgang or one of the brothers, one of Xander's brothers makes fun of him, or maybe it was his room. Anyway, for the name Captain Antihero, and he was like, "Well, it should really or Doctor Antihero." And he's like, well, it should be more like Dr. Anarchist or something like that. But Marvel already has Anarchist. The MCU has all the best names. He literally says that.
So, like, it is then that they're like, we've made up fictional
Correct.
superheroes and villains to entertain you and distract you from the real superheroes and villains. Like,
No,
that's the
'cause
part
people know
about it
that
that's sort of
supers-
like confusing.
No, people know that supers exist in this world.
Right, so that's what I'm saying. Like, why would you create fake ones then? Like,
Well, they have superhero movies. I think the idea is just like you would have any movie. It's just kind of like, oh, well, let's take something that exists and write a story about it.
I mean, I agree, but I think that it would be more along the lines of they would tell the stories of these heroes.
And they probably do.
Right? Like, they'd be
Probably
like
do that too.
biopics, you know, as opposed to the desire for there to be someone super in and beyond. You wouldn't need to create that because it would already exist, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, biopics aren't always as interesting, and you can't
It's
write
true.
the ending you want in a biopic.
Correct.
I think they do that in The Boys, except they do have the actual soups, like Homelander, in a movie. But I don't think the plot is Homelander's movie. I think it's like they write plots and then they actually bring the soups in.
Right. So like and that makes way more sense to me because you're using their fame to create a fake version of events, and it's propaganda, right? Mm-hmm. Propaganda makes way more sense than like, this will be a creative story. I'm going to write Captain America. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't, the math isn't mathing. That's all I'm saying. Although, like, if there are infinite universes, apparently there's a universe where that math does add up. So there you go.
But yeah, so they meet on a dating app because Zan's best friend, who Zan reminds me a little of myself at times, because there's multiple moments where he goes, gross, but I'll accept it. And I'm like, that's very me. There's very many moments where something sweet happens and I'm like, ew, but fine.
Do you also reject people's love externally and constantly like go, no, they're not my friends? Because that's what he does to her.
No, you bitches are stuck with me at this point. I constantly tell you I love you. But it's also, I'm not a very physical love person.
No.
You're also not a supervillain.
I am not a Superman. You don't know that.
If you're a super villain and you have yet to tell us,
I'm going to be furious.
exactly.
Furious.
Sitting here in my pink sweater. Supervillain.
If I don't get to be a supervillain's minion and there's been this opportunity the entire time.
Like, here's the thing. The idea of like being a superpowered person definitely appeals, right?
I mean, sure.
Yeah.
But then people are going to ask shit.
But
of you.
like, if you can be like a minion,
Yeah.
and like specifically one of the ones who's smart enough to like not red shirt it up, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's the dream.
Depends
You get
on
all the perks.
depends on the villain. Like, I would totally work for Zan. He's a super villain, but he's been kind of hidden from the world because nobody thought he had any powers or anything. But he's super smart, and so his goal is to create something that removes all the microplastics from the ocean.
He's like Poison Ivy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He just wants to fix, like, he doesn't give a shit about people, but he really cares about the planet and the oceans.
Mm-hmm.
And the creatures in the oceans.
Yeah. So one of the things I thought was funny, and I don't know if you caught onto this as well, Liz, because this is one of your favorite superheroes, but they definitely
about Wolfgang. You talking
yes,
about Rogue?
yes,
yeah. That's why I want to read the second book so bad, but I want to wait until the audiobook because it's going to be the same narrators, and I want to hear them talk to me in Wolfgang's voice.
Is Wolfgang going to be like the subject of the second book?
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh.
I just breezed right past that. The second book is Wolfgang's
That does
book.
make me really want to read that. If nothing else, then for the curiosity of like how does he get down if he can't touch to
How
nobody?
he get a dick down?
Yeah,
We don't know.
but I
We
love
don't
that
know.
we get to see like if Rogue chose to be evil, this is what that is.
Trust me,
Ish.
as soon as Wolfgang showed up, and also Rogue was evil for a little bit.
That's
if you
true. That's
remember.
true. She does have her evil streaks throughout, but she was also raised by a villain.
She was.
So
Sorry, we got
Anyway.
off a Rogue. This is gonna be a Rogue podcast.
listen, the X-Men is a hot topic with Liz and I. We will fight about it even when we're on the same side.
I also do love the X-Men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When Wolfgang showed up in one of the first scenes where he's really in it, when Xander goes to his family's like library archives thing, and Wolfgang was just like, yeah, well, if I was ever sold off, I would just have to like jerk off in a cup because I can't touch anybody. And I was like, are you Rogue in man form? Hello?
Right. Oh my god. I was like, oh.
Almost immediately when Wolfgang showed up, I'm like, I don't think you're as mean as people think you are. Like, and by the way, his supervillain name is the Hand of Death,
Yes.
which is just rude. Because I almost feel like his powers are a little bit of a handicapped.
Well, yeah, because he literally can't touch people.
Yeah.
Other than we are tangenting hard, but at least we're still in the book.
We do what we can.
He can't touch people for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
And based on, we find out at the end of the book, that person's like super power level, it's over 9,000, then he can touch them a little longer. Sorry, that was a D&D or it was a DBZ reference. And you guys didn't laugh, and I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I don't watch DBZ.
I watched other things as a kid, inappropriate things for my age group. Anywho,
Sorry, I got really upset that nobody
I
cared.
know.
about
I'm
my-
trying. I'm
sorry.
trying to veer us away from that, and you're
you
still
just
in the
keep
sulk
going there.
mode.
Anyway.
So, but also there is this element to it that is more in line with the show The Boys, where there's essentially like a breeding program for this to create more supers. And so like some of the family dynamics that exist are in line with you're going to have to eventually get married to someone that we approve of so you can produce more. And
it's also it just really reminds me a lot of like olden times of like nobility of like, no, you have to get married to this person so you can have the babies.
right.
Also, they keep saying that's how the game is played. Like, so Butch's mother had a essentially fated mate who was a villain, but he switched sides for her. And then her now husband, Butch's father, murked him.
Which I gotta say, I would read that book. Sometimes I love a tragedy. Like I just fucking want to be sad. And I want to hurt myself.
And like his dad is supposed to be one of the greatest superheroes of all time. And I'm like, I almost hate you more than Xander's parents.
Oh yeah, he reminded me a lot of Homelander
Yeah.
from The Boys. Just like, I'm so great, and then behind all of that, he's just like, I'm better than everybody else. I do what I want. I'll kill who I want. Fucking suck my dick.
Like, he's
Right.
a fucking asshole. The
Yeah.
second, like, he showed up, I was like, I don't like you. Like, I know you're supposed to be the greatest superhero ever, and I'm like, you weird me out. I don't enjoy you at all.
Yeah.
The parents are interesting, and that was a big part of the book, was the dynamic with the parents. Because there's Butch's parents, Vortexio and Smoldering Siren, I want to say.
Yes.
And she is like the only decent parent in
Oh,
this
yeah.
whole thing.
And she's not very good.
No.
She's not good, but she's not horrible. She's not outright mean to him for no reason.
Well, and she tries
Most
to
of the
go
time.
behind her husband's back and actually like explain to Butch like the Inventus thing that's happening, which is kind of like the version of Fated Mates here, and try to like push him to be with Xander. But I also imagine she's just a really beat down woman who's in this massively abusive relationship and doesn't know how to like help her son or help herself.
Well, and it's not like she doesn't know how her Inventus died. Like
Oh, yeah,
she
no.
knows her husband killed him, and she has to like be with this man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, fuck, man.
The really fucked up thing too is that they like basically superheroes sign contracts for their unborn children to work for this company.
Which once again is very in line with The Boys, where it's like they have a company that's like mass producing these superheroes. Not to spoil it too much, but you figure that out pretty quickly in the series. But yeah, it's really fucked. And like I could tell really early on into reading the book that it was going to be that where's the gray area? What is a good guy? What is a bad guy? Right? But I think that she still found nuance in it to make it interesting, you know, as opposed to just being like, oh, well, this is an obvious direction you were going in and I really don't care.
Yeah, I thought Butch was super interesting in that realm. So he's supposed to be our big superhero good guy golden boy, who does still want to protect people, and he does still feel dedicated to the citizens of this city and protecting them, but also likes murdering people and violence.
Oh yeah, he likes killing people. He likes blood.
He gets turned on by it.
Yes.
And so I thought that was a really good balance of somebody who isn't just one thing. He is in some ways more bad guy than Xander is.
Exactly.
He
Xander
is.
doesn't really. He really doesn't kill people through most of the book. Like
The only time he does is when his parents make him.
Yes.
yes,
And because apparently like there's this law against soups, even if they're villains, killing people, but because he's not registered, he like doesn't mess things up in the system.
Yeah.
That part was a little bit vague, and I wish that was clarified a little bit more, but like I it was towards the end of the book, so I get why it was like, what, just move on, okay?
More fucking.
We got more fucking to do. We have a promised bottom topping situation, so we got to get to that. So
I do like how they played around that for a while, and I'm like, you better give it to me. If you don't, I'm gonna table flip something.
right, like if it was gonna be like last week's episode where we had the like whole you promised me things and then you did not deliver. Especially in this book where it was like all fucking.
Yeah. So going back a little bit to the good guy, bad guy thing, the one thing that we just like barely touched on is the fact that Xander doesn't have superpowers, or at least he didn't think he did for most of the book.
Right.
Correct.
So that's why he's kind of like the black sheep of his family and just everybody.
Well, and he also, it's interesting because the easy fallback for a character like that is to like, oh, that they're then going to have all this resentment, but he doesn't really seem to have resentment about not having powers. He has resentment about having a shitty fucking family.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because
He really doesn't seem to give much shit about the fact that he doesn't have powers. Like
Yeah.
he's like, I'm doing my shit. This is what I want to do.
he kind of also actually seems to enjoy the fact that he doesn't have powers in a way, because it means his parents kind of leave him alone.
Right.
Yeah.
And the only resentment not the only, but like the major resentment he has towards his family, other than the fact that they're all just kind of psychotic, is that he cares about, as we talked about, animals and the planet. And to them, that's him showing weakness.
Right. Well, and I would be surprised to learn in the second book that that's not true of the majority of his siblings as well. That there's something that they care deeply about that they hide, not just from their parents, but from their siblings for fear of being sold up the river
Right.
to
Yeah.
them, right?
Well, you get it a little bit with Wolfgang because he talks to Xander about the fact that he knows what an Inventus is, and nobody else, at least at their like generation level, so like their parents do, but like the kids don't seem to know what an Inventus is, except for Wolfgang. And Wolfgang says like, yeah, he's really researched it in the hopes that there's somebody out there that could actually match his power and not be like hurt by his touch.
Yes.
And you go, wait a minute, you looking for someone, Wolfgang? You got some love in that dead heart of yours.
Oh, Wolfie.
Well, I suspected that when he stayed behind in the library that he was looking for a way for him to have that
Yeah.
without killing somebody. Can you imagine like getting your like soul sucked out your body through a man's dick?
No.
I would be furious. I would be furious.
That's kind of nightmare fuel.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? I would haunt that man for the rest of his life.
You killed me with your dick.
You killed me with your goddamn dick. I'm furious.
To be fair, you wouldn't get that far with him, but
I mean, if you were strategic.
or he's moving very quickly. If you were also a soup that had like a lot of power, so
Yeah.
you could resist.
Yeah.
Also, if he has gloves on,
Well, okay. So
Yeah, but you ain't kissing him.
well,
Okay, I'm totally down with what that face was, which was like, who needs to be kissed when you go straight to the dick? But the first time, no kiss. You never interact with this man, no kiss, straight to dick.
I mean, Danny really said, "Say less."
All I can envision is, do you guys remember, I think it's Batman Returns, where Poison Ivy wears those like lip
Wax
condom
lips things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we could just use that, Wolfie.
the only problem is the tongue.
Yeah.
Because you know you want to use some tongue. Kissing's weird. I'll go straight for the dick.
If you knew the rules ahead of time and he
Yeah.
just laid them out very strategically of like, this is exactly how this has to go.
Otherwise, I'm killing you with my dick.
We're like, well, we could try.
Then we. That's a sacrifice I'm willing to make, sir.
Put a condom on him, maybe saran wrap around it too, just to make sure. And
Just like drape it like surgery so just the dick is poking through.
yes,
What
then,
if,
and then
I mean, like, what
put a
kind of
condom on it.
superpower, like, condoms would he need to have? Like, let's say you could manage it, but then, like, is his. I'm
Is
gonna
his
regret
jizz?
saying this immediately
Yeah.
after. Is his jizz also imbued with this power? So as it's in you, you're fucking being eaten alive from inside.
The only reason I'm going to say no is because they did mention the idea of artificial insemination with him.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Well,
they did.
But it was just like briefly. So I don't know if it was like already researched and shit like that.
can you
We
imagine
have
being the
thought
researcher
entirely too
who's
much about
testing
this.
that semen?
Could you imagine being. Here's what I don't understand. Never mind, I do. What I was going to say is, could you imagine being pregnant with a child like that? And I was like, well, wait a minute. Wolfgang's mother survived, and it's like, oh, because their powers don't manifest until they're like a couple months old.
I mean, that's my worry with literally all of these monster romances every single time. Like, what if the right swimmers swim and you're fucking. What is that going to come out like, ma'am? Because I have a feeling it ain't going to be great. It's not going to be fun.
Also, she had like 5 fucking kids. Goddamn. And his dad is creepy as shit.
She was into that. She was mad that he got murdered.
It's true.
Yeah, so as much as Vortexio and the Smoldering Siren seem to hate each other, it seemed like Apocalypto Man and something girl, I don't remember what it's called. Glacial Girl.
Glacial
Glacial
girl.
girl.
They seem to have like a weird fucking thing happening.
Yeah.
Like there was like I don't know.
There is a reason why they only had 1 child, and then Xander's parents had 5.
I think there must have been some really good hate fucking happening in that marriage. Like, just like straight up true enemies to lovers situation. That's what is going on in my head. That they are like, I hate you so much. Now get over here and stick that dick in me.
I don't get the hate fucking. I just get the villainous rage of like, lay down on that bed. It's happening now. Like, I get that.
I just am creeped out that his dad is always just like in a basement lair that nobody goes near unless he makes them.
I also thought it was interesting that he was like given a like Gomez Adams like accent in the book or in the audio reading. And I was
Yeah.
like, that's not what I envisioned, but like, okay, that's fine.
But sure.
Well,
But don't you hurt my Gomez, okay? Because I will die for that man.
He is mentioned to be, I think, from Puerto Rico in the very beginning of the book. Like, it's just, or maybe Cuba. Like, it's briefly
Oh,
mentioned.
I must have like totally skimmed
Yeah.
over that.
Yeah. Same.
So we've talked, I think, like around Butch and Xander's relationship a lot. But what do you guys think of their relationship, or more importantly, just their fucking? Because that seems to be the vast majority of their relationship.
It is the vast majority of their relationship. Although time does pass in this.
Mm-hmm.
Not like a huge considerable amount of time, but he's on multiple work trips and stuff in the course of this. Spends multiple weeks at his parents' house.
Yeah, it still moves pretty quickly though.
Oh yeah, no. I'm not I mean the first time they meet,
Yeah.
he gets some
Oh,
little
that part's fine.
Yeah.
Like, I totally get being like, listen, to be fucking? Like, I get that. But then it, like, moves pretty quickly that Butch is basically just staying at Xander's.
Yeah, he basically just lives there.
Well, they move very quickly for two people who thought they were just going to be fucking to the L word. Like, they're like,
Oh, yeah.
and I'm in love with you and I will murder anyone that looks at you sideways. And you're like, it's your 1 week anniversary, sir.
It's
what?
explained a tiny bit because of the Inventus thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although it's also implied that the Inventus thing is not necessarily going to lead to a romantic relationship. Like, she talks about
Right.
it like there's also just really great partnerships and friendships that are formed with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they just have to do the certain level of bonding in order
Right.
for it to really attach itself to them.
Right, because it's just their powers are, like, on the same wavelength, and they can,
Right.
like, commingle to create...
Yes, they can use each
Yeah.
other's powers essentially then, because Xander can then use Butch's powers, which was a kind of exciting scene. I was very excited about it, but we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about the fucking.
That's true. Well, here's what I got to say about that. Like, obviously, we've got the situation where Xander's Dom and Butch is apparently an unknowing sub.
Yes.
Yeah, he didn't really realize that was where his sexual exploits lie, but if you've never been with somebody who can dom you,
True.
You wouldn't really know,
you wouldn't
yeah.
really realize necessarily.
Especially the way Butch seems to approach or has been, like, encouraged to approach sexual things, where it's just, like, not really appropriate for him to even do it, because he says he's a virgin, other than just, like, you know, hand stuff, blowjobs, those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see why he'd be like, I don't know.
It's true.
He doesn't even swear.
Oh, sugar.
Oh,
I
sugar.
hated those. Oh, sugars. I was like, I mean, I guess I like it better than the made up swear words that you
Yeah.
get in a lot of books where you're like, oh, in this universe they say bewitched. I'm like, nah, not at all.
No.
I do like the slow progression of him actually starting to swear. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I like this.
Yeah. I did like Xander's like reaction to Butch. I did really enjoy that. His like, oh my God. Like, if this man does not stop, I won't either. And that will be a lot for him.
Right? Mm-hmm. Oh, I liked the fucking. I really did. I also liked that she was creative with it. You never really got the same thing twice.
Although-
even though there was a lot of fucking.
Some of the creativity, you know, if we're workshopping, great. There's no such thing as a bad idea. But I gotta say, the sliding of, like, first of all, I had a hard time imagining it, and because I had a hard time imagining it, I imagined it more.
Are you talking about the docking?
Is that what they call it when you take
Yeah.
the?
Yeah. So Xander has foreskin.
Xander is
and-
uncircumcised.
And yes, and Butch is circumcised, because apparently all superheroes have to be circumcised
Right.
for some reason. And So I don't know if that's a real thing.
I don't know either.
And I'm gonna find out right now.
I am an innocent, I guess. I didn't realize I was that innocent, but I guess I am.
I'm
Well,
fairly
what?
certain it actually is a
I
thing.
think so too.
I
But
like
I've never looked it up.
it gives me the willies. If like in any other context, imagine someone rubbing their loose skin on you. Sexy isn't what I'd call it.
Right, but you also don't have a penis. So
That's
I
true.
just don't think you can fully
I definitely can't.
grasp the situation.
You're
here.
very right, Liz. I'll never know what it is to stick my penis in my boyfriend's uncircumcised penis skin. I'll never know. And that's just a damn shame.
So I did Google it.
Do you regret it?
No, because
Oh, okay.
it just shows links to porn sites that have it, which I'm not going to click on. But now we know.
But it is a thing.
Now we know.
So I will say, so I was not sure how I was going to like this book. Like, not that I didn't think I was going to like the book. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about the sex scenes. I have absolutely not a homophobic bone in my body. However, I am straight woman. So I
Well-
wasn't sure if I was going to like be super down with all the scenes and stuff. Not that I'd have a problem with them, but like I wasn't sure how much I'd like them, you know what I mean?
How much you would enjoy it
How much
yourself.
I'd enjoy
Yeah.
it myself. And it did things for me.
I don't think it's the straight part there that's the question mark. It's the woman part, right?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
there's nobody that you can envision.
Yeah, you
in
can't
the sex
self-insert
scene. Yeah.
at all.
Yeah. But it did something for me. I was like, oh, hot damn, yes, tell me more.
Oh, I already knew. I already knew going in it was going to be good.
I was like, well, now I have more books to explore.
Trust me, I've read these types of books before. There's plenty of things to explore.
I really thought this was going to be a more cutesy book than it turned out to be.
I did not know what we were getting into.
And it quickly escalated as well. I was like, okay, I'm starting to listen, and it quickly escalated. I was like, oh, damn, what? This
That's true.
turned into a Danny type book very quickly, and I'm aware that I am the one who chose this one, but that was not what I thought we were getting into.
I mean, I think there's already like a blowjob by chapter 3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's literally the first meeting of our
Yeah.
two main characters.
Yeah.
There is a blowjob.
Yep.
Yeah.
And an aggressive one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There's choking involved. I love a good choking. I'm
Well-
not usually like a blowjob person.
So I would agree with you, but and I think that also comes down to there being a woman involved.
Yeah.
Because like there's something about that's just gross. If a man was saying the same things to a woman, I'm like, no, absolutely not.
I don't agree with you, but
Yeah, no.
But that's my personal thing. Like I'm not kink shaming at all. Like if that's what you're into, that's what you're into. But I am uncomfortable with degradation.
I don't like too much of it. I think sometimes like it definitely like goes way too far. Mm-hmm. I don't think this book went way too far.
No. But also, I think that I wasn't as sensitive to it because
Oh, sure.
I wasn't seeing myself in the character. Let me put it that way.
Well, and for me, it wasn't so much that there wasn't a woman involved. I like a little degradation. I'm not gonna lie. You know, every now and then I like that in my books, and not necessarily in real life. But it's not even so much that there wasn't a woman involved, but there was the talk about consent
Yes.
with them first,
Yeah.
and with safe words and everything, and that was my biggest jam because that's sexy as fuck. Like that you're gonna have the conversation about this is all about consent. This gives you the control, and that's the whole point in
Yeah.
BDSM is the sub is actually the one that's in control.
Right.
Well, and
At any
Xander-
point, Butch could call it off.
Yes.
Yes. And
Yeah.
Xander did stop a few times and immediately came out of the persona and was like, oh, okay, are we going too far? What's
Right.
happening? Like
He was
talk to
checking
me.
in. Yep. checking and
I
making
think
sure you're okay.
it's after one of their first interactions where he starts crying, and I should clarify when Butch starts crying, and Xander is like, oh no, I'm so sorry, we went too far, like we need to back up, and Butch is like, no, you are misreading this. I'm just was overwhelmed because this is the first time I've ever experienced something like this.
I also found it really interesting that at least towards the latter half of the book, almost all the sex scenes are in Butch's perspective.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why it seemed different, because Butch was asking for a lot of that more than Xander was even giving to him. Like after the first time of him just like opening the door, Butch was like opening the door, throwing up the windows, like ready to go to the next. Like he was just into all of it and asking for more and more.
Well, and a lot of that had to do with the fact that throughout the entire book, Xander thought that Butch was a normie. So he thought because while Xander does not have powers, he still has the strength that most supers have, the speed that most supers have. Because like the higher strength, higher speed is not really considered a special power. It's just kind of part of their DNA for all of them. And so he could have very easily, had Butch actually been a normie, he could have very easily actually hurt him. And so that's also where Xander was pulling back a little bit in the beginning parts, because he was afraid that he would legitimately hurt Butch, and vice versa, because Butch also thought that Xander was a normie, so he thought he needed to be a little more careful in things.
Yeah.
He also almost lost control of his powers multiple times.
Just a note as you're talking about that, this is a drastic change here, but just a quick mention. I think this is one of the first times that I've read where they really say that the soups are just straight up different species. Like they are not human.
Correct. Yes.
Because a lot of times it's either like humans with powers or humans who have mutated. And this one, they're just like, oh no, we are different species.
Yeah.
Like entirely different.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And they've convinced, basically the conspiracy theory is that they've convinced superheroes and supervillains that they are a different species as well from each other. And the fact of the reality is they're not. They're all one species.
Yeah, like I one line that I found interesting was that it came down to who signed what contract.
Yeah.
Or who didn't sign a contract, because the villains didn't.
Right.
Yeah, the superheroes signed the contracts with Biggs, I believe, or just some contracts.
Basically signed themselves into servitude.
And their children.
And their children and so on and so forth. But the villains did not.
Which I think that what that tells me about the history of the world that we're working in is that probably what happened is the ostracization of the quote unquote villains is what led to a lot of this villainous behavior of like, fine, if you're going to make us the bad guys, we'll be the fucking bad guys.
Absolutely.
Right.
And so that's why I think that, in Wolfgang's book, we're going to find out that the majority of Xander's siblings actually have some compelling or good aspects to them.
Yeah, because there's Wolfgang the twins.
Shock and awe. I did like that. That was cute.
Valencia.
Yep, Valencia and Balthazar. And I also found it really interesting that Xander is the middle child, because it goes Wolfgang, Valencia, Xander, Balthazar, and then the twins.
Yes. So sorry, I said 5 before 6. I forgot about Balthi.
Yeah, the third book is his book.
Yeah.
I'm excited for, I know this is random, but I'm so excited for Wolfgang's, and I'm trying so hard to not read it so I can listen to it, because Wolfgang gets down with a normie.
Ooh.
I don't know what that means.
I feel like
but I want to.
I feel like you have the same energy for the second book in this one that I had in the second in the Dreamlands one, where I was like, I need to read that book. And I did. I was like, I'm not waiting.
Yeah, I'm definitely have to get down with Wolfie's book, because I like Wolfgang. He's creepy as fuck. But he does it in kind of a humorous way, like when he just like walks into Zan's lair when they're in hiding, just like walks on in.
That's such big bro behavior, though.
Yeah,
just
it sure
like
is.
being like, yeah, okay, cool, good job, little bro, you have a lair, whatever, I know you're here.
Right.
I've always known.
Yeah.
Damn it, Wolfie.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure he has a lot of trauma to unpack because he was essentially like his parents' assassin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and just now, historically, I am not the biggest physical touch person in the world. I don't get touched very often. I don't like people touching me. But to never be able to be touched by another person
Oh yeah.
or to touch another person.
I anticipate touch starvation being a big aspect to
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
book.
Well, I mean, you have to imagine he is also a virgin, so he's kind of like the butch in the next book in some way. I'm not saying that he's the sub, but I
Well-
mean like he's the inexperienced one or has unique experiences that aren't.
Question, do we know anything about the twins books? And I hope they're together.
Oh no, we do actually. She's writing them right now. They are together with a third person.
Fuck yeah.
Sorry.
No.
Trust me, I finished this book and I was like, I need to know more about this world. And we are getting so far off track.
No, we're not. We're talking
No,
about the
no,
book.
it's no. Okay, because here's the thing. I'm about to lead us back in.
Okay, good. Go for it.
You mentioned that like that Butch was a virgin in this, but I do like that they addressed the fact that, you know, when they do finally get to it being Xander's turn, that he's also a virgin to that
To being a
configuration. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, he's always been a top. And then
Couldn't
when
find
they
a good
finally
word
get
for
to Butch being on top, which they work up to a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very nice.
Yes, it is. It's very nice. I was really going to table flip if they didn't take us there.
They
I
were
was gonna
teasing
be-
it
I know.
for a
real
while,
fucking
and I was
pissy.
like, so, and that's one of the issues I did have with this book is that for how little truly happens, it takes a long time. It's a long book considering and I realized that probably if you cut out the repetitive, does he like me, doesn't he like me, I like him, I don't like him, like if you cut out that cyclical, like we're gonna go a few steps forward and then a few steps back thing, it probably would be half as long.
I suppose, but I guess I never minded that.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Because that's,
I minded
how
it because it was
people
the
work.
exact same language over and over again.
yeah, I mean, I could see that. But I mean,
That-
that's just
yeah.
how people function in relationships.
It is
Sure.
true.
But like we don't need to see it every time either.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if you're thinking about it from the big picture aspect of it, I don't need to see that he's still spinning out because you already told me literally the last chapter and the chapter before that and the chapter before that. When he stops spinning out, that's an update, right?
Yeah.
Until then you're just giving me the same thing. It's like a weatherman coming on every hour on the hour to tell you it's raining. Guess what, motherfucker? I can see that.
I will say, though, it felt like the stuff that did happen, so the plot that did happen, happened in such, like, dramatic chunks. Mm-hmm. It was like, oh, and it's plot time, and we're going to do plot. And then the plot's going to go on the back burner for, like, 50-some pages, and then plot.
I kind of liked that, though.
It did give you a break, because the plot was... It was intense for what was
Yes.
happening.
For the little chunks of plot that there were at a time, they were intense and they were intricate.
Well, and I do think that's interesting because what we've gotten used to in most books, I certainly shouldn't say all, but in most, is that the smut is interwoven with the plot, like it's happening simultaneously. And in this, it was very much like, we're not fucking in this moment, so now we give you plot.
Well, and I will say a lot of that might have to do with the fact that they were kind of hiding themselves from each other because a lot of the plot happened when they had to be in their like villain persona or their hero persona, and they were separated from each other in those moments because they didn't figure out who they really were until actually damn near close to the end-ish. Like there was maybe a fourth of the book left when they actually figured out what was actually happening.
Yeah.
I will say, in my mind, whether or not this was true in the book, it's not really clarified one way or another how well their disguises actually disguised them,
Right,
you know?
yeah.
But, like, I just kept picturing, like, fucking Clark Kent.
I think that's pretty
Oh,
close
we
to
put
it.
glasses on. It's not, like, that was my...
Well, okay.
It made it more entertaining for me.
There is one point when Captain Masculine is talking about his mask and his smile, because they talk about his like fucking 1,000-watt smile all the time. And his smile is the only thing you can see.
Mm-hmm.
He does say that.
Yeah.
But I'm mostly just like, how come you guys didn't recognize each other's voices?
Right.
You don't have Batman voices.
Well,
here.
that's always the problem, isn't it? With Superman, right? Like, it's like, okay, I can see how you'd be like, you know, he's not wearing the glasses and he's not in normie clothes, but like his voice doesn't change.
Right.
That is the same man.
Especially because Dr. Antihero Xander uses some pretty, like, I don't know, deep and dark and villainous voices in his sexy times.
He's got
Yeah, he
some
does.
growliness, and I'm like, oh, hi. That's
Yeah.
doing something for me.
Yeah. I mean, I won't lie. That, like, you would have to fight pretty hard not to get turned on by this book.
Oh,
Let's
yeah.
be
Oh, yeah.
so honest.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, it doesn't give you much of a break. It's like, oh, you're not fully turned on from the last chapter? Boom! Next one. Take it.
Which, by the way, so when I decided in my infinite stupidity to journey out into the world of people listening to this, and I should have known, I did know better. I had been listening to it for hours. I had been listening to it all day. There was like maybe an hour and a half left in the book. So I'm walking through Aldi and they are in his lair, doing shower scenes in his lair.
Yeah.
Did he get his cock ring when you were
Yep.
at Aldi?
Yep, sure did.
You mean his engagement ring?
His engagement cock ring.
His engagement cock ring.
Yeah, you know, like you do.
I'm sure I was like bright red walking through Aldi going, don't understand what I'm listening to, please.
You know what? But here's the thing. I feel like we can't be the only people out here
Oh, God,
listening
no.
to,
Oh, God, no.
to this
No.
madness out there. Like, I just don't believe it. I don't believe it. I think there are other girlies and other people who are out there, like, looking like they're jamming to their headphones, and in reality, they're listening to the raunchiest fucking shit on the
Oh, yeah.
planet.
It was
can't
just
just be
the
me.
image of me being like, I just wanted to buy some calzones, and I'm at Aldi, and then he's talking about the cock ring and doing things in the shower on his knees, and I'm like, oh hot damn, I didn't think this through very well when I decided to leave the house.
I will say, on the note of things I wasn't prepared for, and I wouldn't even say I wasn't prepared for it. Like, I assumed it was coming. There was gonna be some butt plugs, but what I was like prepared for was the description of the monstrous, frightening butt plug. I was like, dear God, how big must this be? Like, define it. Tell me, what is the circumference?
I need to know.
I need to know how monstrous this is.
As if you were describing the product details on Amazon.
Right.
Please tell me.
Yeah. Why don't you just put the link in?
Yes. No, Wiggles.
Link in description below.
Link in the description.
She does have a Spotify list, though. If you wanted to listen to music, I don't know if it's the music they talk about in the book or just music she thinks vibes with the book, but she does have that on her website. The author. Probably should say who she is.
Yeah, go for it.
I did.
You said the author's name?
No, I just said the author because I said she does have, and then I didn't say
She
who she
specified who
is.
she
Oh,
was talking
that's
about.
what I thought you meant was like, I should say who she is, as in I'm going to name the author now.
We already did that.
You only get to get a shout out once, author.
See Rochelle. I will say we've skipped over one of my absolute favorite characters in this book, and that is Bestie.
Bestie Kai.
Bestie Kai, Xander's best friend, who is not his best friend according to him, even though she has the key, the fingerprint access to his apartment, and is over all the time, and they have favorite shows that they watch together, but he hates her, and she's so annoying.
Yeah. That is my favorite kind of friendship, where there's one that's like convinced that they're not best friends, and I'm like, no, you're best friends.
You fool.
Yeah.
No, Kai is great, and she ends up getting kidnapped by Vortexio and almost dying.
Yeah.
But Xander saves her with his newfound superpowers.
I did think that the just dropping in the middle of conversation, by the way, I'd be your surrogate, was a little heavy handed.
It was.
I was like, okay,
hot damn.
that's a big offer. You don't even know what that super spunk is gonna do to you. Again,
she knew.
She did by that point.
Oh, did she? Okay.
Yeah. I feel like I need to like make a PSA. You don't know what that super spunk will do to you. And that applies to all kinds of super spunk. Beware. Because y'all just go into this and going, oh, it'll be fine. It might not, ma'am.
Yeah.
You might get John hurted.
The thing that kind of like just took me not out of it, but just like had me pause is the random like, oh, and Rocky Horror Rocky Horror Show. I'm like, wait, what? Oh,
Yeah.
we're going to the Rocky Horror Show now.
Yeah, but I wanted to see Zan
In his
dressed
fish.
up as Frankenfurter.
Well, I knew immediately as soon as they brought that up that you know, Butch was going to be Rocky.
Well, I mean, who else is he gonna be? Riff Raff?
Nope. I was just like, well, okay, so that's the road we're going down. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I love the picture. I love the image that my brain conjures, right? I would go for Frankenfurter every day of the week. Now, granted, that is because it's Tim Curry. But also...
I mean, I do have a deep, abiding love for Tim Curry.
Yeah. I have seen some other hot Frankenfurters, though, I must say.
Yeah, remember when we went?
Yes! Wow! He did well. He did well. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. Let's not get too far into that fantasy. Yeah.
Yeah, that was just like a weird thing for me. I was like, ugh, this is cheesy and ridiculous, and I don't know how I feel about it, but all right.
You know, I think that theater nerds will always find a way to nerd it up. And now I know that this woman is a theater nerd. Like, she didn't have to say anything else. It's like, okay, we know who you are now.
Yeah, we see you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I do know. Oh, I did learn this because I looked up a little bit about the author, that she has an art degree.
Yeah, she does.
So
Look at me. Look at my surprise
I
face.
know. And the twins who are in art school. So the fourth book is going to have even more artsy fartsy shit in it.
I mean, this is going to be so off topic, but it's something that lives rent free in my head all fucking day long. When it is finally Benedict's time in the Bridgerton hot seat, if there's an all kinds of artsy fartsy fucking, I'm going to be furious. And that's just a blanket statement. But that's also because Benedict's my boy.
I know.
But back to this book.
Back to this book. What else you got in the chamber?
What else do I got in the chamber? On one hand, like, I really loved the dynamic that was building between Butch and Xander, but at the same time, I was like, God damn, Butch is whiny. Like, he was begging from the second Xander would look at him. He'd be like, good morning. He'd be like, fuck.
He did have teenager vibes, which, to
Yes.
be fair, Butch is 22.
It's true.
And
It's true.
Is Xander at like 30 something or
Yeah,
around
he's
there?
in his 30s.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you could definitely tell that Butch was 22
Yes.
and just having his sexual awakening right now.
Yeah, man. I mean, like, here's the thing. Good on ya. Like, get you some. But it was there were some times where I was like, okay, sir, you're talking about like constantly sporting a boner. You must be in constant pain. I don't know how those feel, but like,
I wonder if it was more because they were like not rejecting the Inventus like power bonding thing, but they just didn't know what it was.
right.
And it was kind of like, not only were their bodies like being pulled to each other, their powers were trying to like do something.
Yeah. To be fair, Xander was also a little bit ridiculous on the boner popping. Like, he'd be like, he said, please. Bang.
Giggles. How are we gonna get a solid like 10 plus fucking spicy scenes if they're not always horny the whole fucking time?
You're right. I can't even argue with you. You can't have a 400-page book that's 75% fucking if you aren't always ready.
Well, and then when Butch finally took charge, I was like, oh,
Yes.
he learned.
Yeah. Good boy. Good boy.
Don't fucking look at me and say that. That was creepy. You lock that up.
Oh no.
Oh, Sally.
One question I have had whatever. One question that I pose is, do we take Wolfie at his word that he is the one who killed his father, or do we attribute that to Vortexium? Because his mother is convinced that it was him.
I think he did kill his father, but he very much, in many ways, played other people into thinking that they did things.
He does have a Bond
Yeah.
villain speech at the end, which is really entertaining.
We didn't touch on the fact that, so Xander eventually gets his powers, and his powers are also kind of roguelike, where he gets to absorb whatever somebody else's power is,
Yeah,
or use them.
any other soup around him, he can
Yeah.
absorb their powers and use them.
Well, it's like that. Oh God, what was the name of the brother in Heroes? Not the
didn't
one that
watch
could fly,
Heroes.
but his brother.
I don't remember.
I'm
I
disappointed
know.
in myself that I can't
I
remember.
haven't watched Heroes in so fucking long.
I know. Point being, he that character could just like touch somebody, and then he would have their powers until he touched somebody else.
So Wolfie admits at the end in his Bond villain speech that he knew Xander had this the whole time, because apparently he tried to kill him as a kid. You know, when your whole family is psychotic, you just try to kill each other.
Right.
And they were fairly young.
Yeah. But instead of killing Xander like
Nearly killed Wolfie.
with Wolfgang's own power.
Right.
So I agree. I definitely think Wolfgang actually was the one who killed Apocalypto, because when Vortexio learns that Apocalypto is dead, from what we can gather, he didn't learn it until Glacial Girl
Said it.
said it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think he kind of made it look like Vortexio is the one who did it. Mm-hmm. And he kind of is making the rest of the family, except for their sister, who is a raging bitch, kind of fall in line behind him.
Well, she just disappears. We don't know where she is.
See, here's the thing. I kind of like her.
I like her too. She brings the chaos. In fact, Xander even says she brings the chaos.
Right. Like, to me, she is that perpetual, like, petulant child kind of vibe.
And as the only girl of 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, if anybody was going to get special treatment, it was going to be her. So
Oh, yeah.
she probably is actually upset at her dad dying, because that's an extra protection for her.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And the whole thing, it comes down to, they say it several times throughout the book, is that's how the game is played, right? So she's just lost a knight on her chessboard.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and all of their families like pit everyone against each other, and he pretty much so Butch's dad tries to get him to kill Xander without him realizing that Xander is Dr. Antihero, and vice versa. He tries to get Dr. Antihero, or Xan, to try to kill Butch.
Well, and I don't think he anticipates that Dr. Antihero would be able to do shit, right? So I think in his mind, he's like setting it up to be justifiable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's trying to get him to attack Mr. or whatever. I keep forgetting.
Captain
Masculine. He's trying to get him
Captain
to attack
Masculine.
Captain Masculine by telling him that he killed Butch.
Captain Masculine sounds like a rude nickname that Tony Stark would give to Steve Rogers.
It
actually
really does.
Yeah, it does. So, yeah, long story short, I do think Wolfgang dealt the killing blow to his father.
Yes.
And then, is their mother dead?
No, not as far as I can tell.
Because they talk about her being dead. Or at the very least, she's gone after she kills Vortexio.
It just seems like she, like, fucked off.
I don't know.
I think she died in the fight.
Oh.
Well, Vortexio is definitely dead because they plummet into the water and then the whole water freezes from her.
Right.
But then we don't know what happens to her.
But you would think she would be able to survive her own powers.
Right. Well, right. If she's the one doing this,
Right.
why wouldn't she be able to?
If she's frozen solid, though, she might not be able to breathe.
Yeah, but like, why would she fucking sacrifice herself to kill Vortexia.
Well, yeah, but I don't think she did it on purpose. I think he drug her down with him, and it happened.
I don't know.
He mentions, Zan mentions that three of the four of their parents are dead.
That they think. I think that you got to have a foible, right?
That's true.
Going forward, and it's classic superhero thing to think somebody's dead and then they come back and fuck your shit up.
It's true. The foible could also be their sister, though, too.
I
True.
hope not, because I feel like she has to have some redemption arc in her crazy, right?
One could help.
She could end up with Kai.
Yes, because Balthazar does say at one point in time that he is the only straight sibling in that family.
Yes, and Kai is a lesbian.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Their crazy actually would be really fun.
Their crazy would be fun. Oh,
I thought she
now
was
I kind
bi.
of hope that happens.
maybe
Kai?
I'm wrong. Yeah, I thought she was bi.
You're right.
She
Kai
might be
is
bi.
Okay.
She is bi. Sorry.
That's why Xander thinks that originally she's doing the dating app with Butch for herself.
Right.
Because he was on the dating app for solely women. But
Somehow Kai
But-
got past that? Oh.
Oh, well, so again, coming back to the like Superman reference point, like I've never been able to reconcile. Does Lois Lane not smell that this man smells the same? He rescues her so much.
I mean,
he
right?
cradles her so much, right?
Maybe he has some Superman cologne that he specifically wears as Superman.
Right?
I mean, he better, because I'm not gonna lie, when a dude smells good, like
You're like, God damn.
like
Trust me,
when
if Pappy was like actually like a Superman, bitch, I would know. I'd see him off in the sky and be like, that's my husband.
You're like, motherfucker, the whole time.
okay, I'm just gonna say, I'm pretty sure Wiggles and I would know if Pappy was Superman. We'd be like, that bitch
Look
is
at that
Pappy.
motherfucker. God damn it.
God
Even
damn
if
it.
it was something that had like a better costume, like a Batman costume,
Yeah.
I'd be like, that motherfucker.
Yeah.
We'd be like, hey Liz, look, it's your husband.
Like, I can tell he has a specific walk. Which is true, he does.
Very much so.
Well, I bring up the Musk thing for a reason, because I think that's what they're picking up on when they're in their super identities, right? Because they from the beginning they're like, oh man, I know I shouldn't like him, but I'm obsessed with that Dr. Antihero, and God damn, does that ass look good in that Captain Masculine like get up. And I think that like they're, whatever detection that they would have for their Inventus, that's not really made clear in this book of what signs to look for,
Right.
but I think that they're like, they're picking up that Musk. They're like,
It's something.
it's censoring somewhere.
Yeah.
And obviously they can't tell with their goddamn eyes. They're like, no, it's not the same man.
I will say
Glasses,
that
no
even
glasses.
if they,
Glasses, no glasses.
I will say, even if they weren't like picking up on something, like he points out multiple times that he's watched Dr. Antihero for a lot of times. He's like, he doesn't look like he's doing anything nefarious. And you want to know why that is? Because he's not. He's trying to save the planet by not having microplastics in the ocean.
Right.
It's adorably wholesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, there were definitely a few moments that really strongly, and if you don't know what this is, that's fine. Like, you don't need to know what this is. But that very strongly gave me Captain Hammer and Dr. shit, what's his name? Dr. Horrible. Dr. Horrible. It gave me Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog vibes.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, just the like, especially when it came down to the like, we're being superheroes in this moment thing, but there's also the sexual tension thing. I was like, you can't tell me that shit ain't the same.
The hammer is my penis.
The hammer is my penis. Oh, it literally, like, by the end of this, I really wanted to like track down that YouTube video. I still might.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but
Guess what we're showing Danny after this?
God damn it. I had
We'll
to
just show
open
you
my
the first
mouth.
episode. But yeah.
If you can even find it. Last I heard, you couldn't find it anywhere.
Oh, is it not on the internet anymore? That's a shame. We'll find out. But yeah. So, Danny,
Yes.
what's your spicy rating?
What's my spicy rating? Okay, so there was a little BDSM, but not like Automatons. I'm gonna give it like a 4.
I was feeling a 4. There was a few other things besides the BDSM that brings it to that level. I'll just say it. There was the like cum play that I thought brought it up there. So I'm good with a 4. Wiggs?
I'm gonna go with a 4.5 just for quantity. Like,
Yeah.
like it's hard to really give it less when, like I said, it's the majority of the book.
I will say at least it was well written smut that there was a lot of.
Yes.
Like, it was
Yeah.
not poorly written.
And it wasn't boring. It didn't do the same stagnant shit over and over again.
Nope.
And like the other reason I give it the 4.5 is because like even when they weren't fucking, they were talking about fucking.
Yeah, I liked some of the dirty talk. I was like, ooh, yeah, talk dirty to me, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah. It was more than I was expecting, as we've already
Same.
stated. This book caught me a little by surprise. I was like, hello.
That brings us to the romance rating, though.
Mm.
And what do you guys think about
like,
that?
Like a 2. There isn't a lot of romance to this book. It's mostly fucking.
Yeah, I'm like at a 2 as well.
Well, they sure think that they're romantic, but I'm like,
They
at
didn't
what-
have one whole romantic scene. Not that I can remember.
nothing that
No.
wasn't like a preamp to
Yeah.
fucking.
Or they didn't just like almost fade to. It's like the romantic scenes were faded to black.
Yes, that's a really great way to put it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
kind of dig it, though.
Yeah.
Every now and then it's good to get a real smutty book.
I mean, I don't necessarily have a problem with it.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, I'm going to complete the consensus with a 2.
What about your overall?
I give it a 4.5. I actually really, really liked this book.
I give it a 4.
I diverge a little bit here. For me, it's a 3.
That's all right.
Mostly just because I was like, the cyclical nature of it was getting really old by the end, where I was like, do we have to backtrack? Have you not established how you feel about each other? Like, I'm getting bored with that part of it. So while the sex was always exciting and new and different, the emotional interactions were stagnant and tired by the end of the book. I was just like, I don't even fucking give a shit. Like, just tell each other you love each other and let's be done with it. Like,
One quick note, because we didn't talk about it. Did y'all get the bonus epilogue and then the Christmas as well?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I just want to make sure that was a part of our rating.
I don't think you
really
would
like
be
the
able to have the I think that was part of the reason I was like a little anxious about the topping for Butch happening. That is one of the prologues.
Yeah, it's the bonus epilogue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm
Or
not even
epilogue, excuse me.
Yeah. So I'm not even sure if you read the book if you get that scene, but in the audiobook you do.
Yeah.
I think it's the epilogue is the topping scene for Butch, and then the bonus epilogue is the Christmas scene, which I found quite enjoyable.
Actually, the bonus epilogue is the topping. The Christmas scene is another thing entirely. There's
Oh,
an
is it?
epilogue, and I don't remember actually what happens in the epilogue. And then the bonus epilogue is Butch's scene, and then there's the Christmas scene.
Yeah. So I was definitely like, you better have included that.
Yeah.
I hope.
would
I don't
have
know.
Table flipped.
Oh yeah, I would have been pissed.
I only read the first 6-7 chapters on Kindle, and then I was like, oh, I have so much stuff to do this weekend. I just switched to audiobook. So I don't know.
I'm so picky about audiobooks because there's so many that I've started and I cannot handle the narrators. I think I loved these narrators. I thought they were so fucking good.
Oh yeah, the Butch thing aside,
Yes.
Butch. For whatever reason, every
Started
time
making
the
me laugh
chapter
every
starts
time.
and it points out their point of view, the way he said it was Butch, and you're like, why?
Why?
He doesn't talk like that most of the time.
That was so
Can
bizarre.
Can I just ask you though? So the narrator
Are you
who
blushing?
did Butch's voice, I just don't know how to ask this question. The narrator who did Butch's perspective, the way he did Xander's voice though.
There were two separate
There were
narrators.
two separate narrators.
No. I'm not. So
Oh,
there's Xander's
okay.
perspective.
In
Yeah,
that
yeah,
POV, yeah.
Yes, but when the narrator who's doing Butch's POV did Xander, there was something about his voice.
Oh yeah, no,
Doing
yeah.
Xander. I was
Absolutely.
like,
It was better
Absolutely.
than the actual Xander.
yeah.
Yeah.
The growly. Oh, I was like, oh hi.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, like, it worked really well, but also at the same time there was certainly a point where I was like, it doesn't matter. Like I would rather listen to Butch's perspective in spite of Butch. Butch.
Butch. Okay, so that just leaves us with your recommendations.
You want me to go first?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Y'all both looked at me like, okay, go.
It's just because we both are pointed at you.
Yeah.
I'm the odd point on the triangle.
You are the odd point on the triangle. Liz is next to me on the couch.
All right, we got to wrap this up because we can't hold on to our shit anymore. So my recommendation is unfortunately on Netflix. And I say unfortunately also because they fucking canceled it and it was rude and it was inappropriate and they deserve to be slapped. Anywho, my recommendation is Sense8. And the reason I recommend them is there is a wonderful couple in it. I'm not going to give anything. I'm not going to give anything else away. But there are a couple throughout the whole thing, so I'm not ruining anything that way. But I don't think that they have the dom sub thing going on. That's not what I get from the relationship. But they are just like, they do have the joy of being with each other, and there's joy in having sex with each other that is I see in this book. And so yeah, Leto is the main character of that couple because his boyfriend is side character technically. I don't know. It's really the like definition of whether or not you're a main character or a side character is really blurry on that show. But also that show is just like fantastic. I'll waste a whole bunch of airtime if I talk about it anymore. So I'm going to move on to Danny. What you got?
Okay, so my suggestion would be, so it's not a male-male romance. Like I said, this is actually probably the first book I've read that's a male-male romance. I will be reading many, many more.
Oh, goddamn, we awoken something in you.
Yep, it sure did. But so there is a series of books called the Protectors series. It's by Teresa Gableman. Specifically the book Slade. Mm-hmm. And it's a vampire romance, so you're welcome.
You know how I love them.
I know how you love a vampire romance, but Slade does have a little bit of the BDSM and everything in it, and it does something for me.
Well,
is it called Slade because one person is a vampire and one person is not a vampire?
So it's called Slade because the male main character's first name is Slade.
Oh, that's not as exciting as I thought it was going to be.
All of the books in the series, which by the way, there's 26 of them.
My God.
Yeah, all of the books in the series are named after the main male character in each of them, and they're all interconnected. Slade is the doctor of the like vampire clan.
Okay. All right. Liz?
So I would recommend the Harley Quinn show on HBO. Because it is significant. It's not what you would expect like a DC show to be. Like it's graphic and ridiculous and over the top, but Poison Ivy is very much like Xander. She's very controlling and a villain, but really just wants to care about the world and fuck people. And then there is this wonderful himbo villain called Kite Man, and he is just the most absurd, ridiculous character, and you hate him at first, but then you love him so much. And it's very graphic, and you know, all sorts of shit happens. The heroes aren't very hero-y, or they're just really dumb. Like Batman's kind of dumb. Mm-hmm. But it's a great show.
Oh, interesting.
I have a second recommendation that has nothing to do with superheroes, but if you want a lot of fucking, and if you want a book that has a lot of fucking, then you should read Pucking Around, which is a Why Choose romance, a hockey romance. It's like fucking 700 pages, and that book is also 75% fucking. And it is a MFMM. I believe that's how the letters work for this one. Mm-hmm. And the two men's that are also together, one is like kind of dom and has a pierced dick, and his name is Caleb, and he's very hot. And then there's also the himbo Jake, who's just kind of like, I play hockey. Oh, my best friend wants to fuck me? Okie dokie. Well, so yeah. And there's also a really big burly man who's very hot. Anyway, so Pucking Around by Emily Rath. There if you want sexy time. If you like this episode, you can find us out on the socials at Wrong Dust Jackets or just Wrong Jackets out on X. Please give us a rating, a review, drop a comment. Let us know what you thought. Otherwise, we'll talk to you next time. Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye now.
Goodbye.